You're watching the Survivors to Thrivers podcast, and in today's episode, I want to tell you about a couple of crooks. And of course, we talk about avoiding crime, don't we? But these two crooks that I want to talk about will actually steal your situational awareness. So let's see what those are and how to stop them. Stay tuned. If you're a survivor of violence and are ready to get control of your life again, you're in the right place at the right time. This is the Survivors to Thrivers podcast with your host, Cranford Blackman. Hey everybody, Cranford here. Welcome to another episode of the Survivors to Thrivers podcast. I talk about situational awareness a lot in these podcasts because it's one of the simplest things we can do to improve our odds of being safe, to increase our chances of being successful in our daily life, whether it's at work, whether it's being safe, whether it's in our relationship or our home life, anything of the sort. Being more aware in our life can make us more successful and safer. But there's a couple of things that can cause us to be less aware, even when we're trying to be more aware. And those two things are sort of like Bonnie and Clyde. Now, Bonnie and Clyde, if you're not familiar with them, they're a couple of criminals from the early 30s in the United States. They were a couple, a boyfriend and girlfriend, who robbed banks, they robbed gas stations, grocery stores, and were responsible for several deaths. Well, these two things that I'm going to tell you about are sort of like Bonnie and Clyde. Not that they're going to steal anything from you or kill anybody, but they can steal your awareness. And what we know is that when you're unaware, your chances of being hurt, of not being safe, go way up. So these are the two criminals that will steal our situational awareness. So what are they? The Bonnie and Clyde of situational awareness are sensory distraction and emotional distraction. Now, what are these? And why are they so criminal when we think about our situational awareness? Well, I'm going to tell you, so I'm glad you're here. So the two types of distraction I want to talk about are Bonnie and Clyde, as it were, are sensory distraction and emotional distraction. Now, even once you learn to be more aware, and when you're practicing it, when you're doing it on a day-to-day basis, there are things that can snap you out of your awareness and get you to turn your attention completely to something else. And we don't really want that. What we do want to do, because we can't stop those distractions, what we can do, what we want to learn to do, is to recognize when that's going on, or the situations that would allow that distraction to happen. So the two distractions are sensory and emotional. So what is sensory distraction? Sensory distraction is something that grabs our attention through our physical senses. Whether it is something that takes our vision away from what we want to look at, not blinding us. Well, it kind of blinds us, doesn't it? But when we have to look away at something, I'm looking at you and something grabs my attention. It's one of the ways that magicians work with sleight of hand or misdirection. So what they do is they'll want you to look up here while they're doing something else over here they don't want you to see. That's a sensory distraction to get you to look over here so you don't see what's going on here. And it's the same with your hearing. You hear a loud noise and we look. What was that? Well, that takes away our attention. But what about when we've got on a set of earbuds and we're listening to music or we're listening to a phone call? See, we also have sensory distraction there as well. And that's voluntary, isn't it? Another kind of sensory distraction could be like when we're really cold, when we're really uncomfortable. If we're feeling pain, our awareness can diminish. We've got that crick in our neck, and all of a sudden we're not thinking about the people around us. We're thinking about that crick in our neck, that pain in my neck, that crick in our neck. That's a little southern term. But the point is, any kind of pain can distract us. And that's important too. When you're in a situation that requires your awareness to escape, maybe whether it's an earthquake, a storm, and you've been injured slightly or majorly, you can lose the ability. You don't really lose the ability. You can lose your awareness though. So you have to understand that if you're in pain, and think of it this way, I'm hurting. I've fallen and injured my arm trying to get out of this building. And if I'm thinking about my arm, I'm not paying as much attention to my surroundings and the other dangers that could be going on. So any sort of sensory distraction can really mess up your awareness. And like I say, it can be anything. It can be from pain, something you hear, something you see. You take a bite of something and didn't realize it was sour like a lemon, and all of a sudden you're looking at the spoon like it did something wrong, right? You've lost your situational awareness for a few moments. Now, you can't be fully situationally aware all the time. Stuff's going to happen. But when you recognize it, you can stop staring at your spoon that had something sour in it and come back to awareness of what's going on around you. Your phone rings, you start listening to it, and not only are you listening to it, now you're looking down at your shoes or something else. So now you've taken away your hearing and your vision as far as being aware. Does that mean you'll never answer the phone during the day? No, of course not. But it might mean that while you're talking, you go, oh wait, I have to speak to this person, but I can keep my eyes up, so at least I'm looking around and giving some attention to my surrounding areas. That little bit of extra attention that you can give to your area, even if you do have to take that phone call, might be the difference in a criminal targeting you because you're not paying attention, or maybe it just keeps you from tripping over that child that was walking in front of you while you're in the airport or while you're walking up to your date. So it's important to not lock out your awareness completely. Yep, sure enough, sometimes you have to give your attention to something else, to get the keys out of your pocketbook, to put the keys, the right key, in the keyhole. But you don't let it zone you out of being aware of what else is going on. Okay? Now, the second one of our Bonnie and Clyde group is emotional distraction. Now, what in the world can I mean by emotional distraction? Well, I put a hint in the name of it. It's your emotions. How that works is like this. When you have clarity of what's going on, you're actually in kind of a very level emotional way of being, okay? When you get out of that levelness, when you're up excited or down depressed, whatever it is, it can mess with your awareness. And this isn't just something I've noticed. I mean, there are studies on brain activity that will show when you're in an emotional upheaval, your ability to focus on what's around you really diminishes, drastically so. So that's where you have to remember. When you're in an area, maybe you're in a town you're not familiar with or around people you're not familiar with, and you're thinking about that breakup that happened yesterday, and that guy who you thought was wonderful but was really a scumbag left you, and even though you know he was a scumbag, you're heartbroken and you really thought he was the one. Well, look at all the stuff you're thinking about as opposed to the people who are around you, the situations that are around you. And this is the case whether you're upset, sad, upset, angry, or upset terrified. And see, that can come into play. Remember a moment ago when I talked about in a disaster situation? But it can also make a huge difference in a criminal situation. So if someone is accosting you, if someone is trying to get control of you and take you somewhere you don't want to go, or someone's trying to take your child, it's terrifying, it's scary. But here's the thing to remember. When you're in that terrified, scared, emotional state, you're not being aware of what's going on like you could be. Now, I'm not saying that you can turn off being scared. I mean, that's built into us too. That's part of something that helps us stay alive and helps us to stay safe. But what you can do is to recognize, instead of just being afraid, you're just frantically terrified, which means you're not looking around you. You're not realizing what this person looks like or the area that you're in. You know, maybe he's put you in his car and he's driving away. It's very important for you to look at the car, to look around you and see, where is it that this guy has taken me, so that you can describe it, or so that you can get away from there later. So whether it's sad, angry, terrified, it can really mess up your awareness. Now, the same goes for being ecstatically happy. Now, I'm not saying I don't want you to be happy. I do want you to be happy. And part of being happy is to be safe, to not be afraid, to not be injured. But when you get so happy, so ecstatic, so joyfully, well, I don't know, we don't talk about being that crazy happy very much. I don't have the right vocabulary for it. But when you get like that, you also lose your environmental awareness. So I'm not saying don't be happy. I'm saying don't get stuck in an emotional change, good or bad, for so long that you lose what's going on around you. You know, I talk about increasing your odds of safety, increasing your odds of success. And to do that, your awareness has to be switched on. Now, if you think about these situations I'm talking about, these Bonnie and Clydes, they're not something in your environment. Those are internal. That's your emotions, your feelings, your sensory perceptions. So you also need an internal or an introspective situational awareness to recognize when you are no longer focusing on what's happening around you. And that's why it's so important to understand and to recognize that there are internal distractions that happen, and they happen a lot. But you also have to understand that you can control them. Maybe not completely, but you can control how long you stay in those less than aware states. And that is a huge benefit to you. That very much reduces the chances of you being taken advantage of or you being injured, either intentionally by someone or unintentionally by something you've done, tripping, falling, running into something, not seeing something that you should have, or touching the hot stove instead of the counter because you were looking away. So there you have it. Sensory distraction and emotional distraction. The Bonnie and Clyde of situational awareness. Now that you know what they are, you can start looking for them. Start seeing them in your own life to help you stay more aware, to help you stay more safe, and to help you be more successful in all parts of your life. So what parts of today's video are really sticking with you? Are you seeing parts of your life where you recognize that you're not being aware because of your emotions or because of something that's going on physically with you? As you look in your past, how many times has that happened to you? Maybe you don't know what you missed, but certainly you can look at times where you're completely unaware of what was going on because of pain, because of fear, or even because of ecstatic happiness. So let me know what some of those situations were. Write them down in the comments. And remember, when you share with me in the comments, you're sharing with the entire LabCalf tribe. Write down the good and the bad so that everyone else in the LabCalf tribe can learn from your experience as well. So what I'd like you to do is share this video with your friends and family, especially those people you love who are survivors of violence. It's so important that every survivor learns a way to come out of their shell, to get back into life again, to feel safe, and to have more control not only over their environment, but over how they respond, how they react, and how they experience life again. We want every one of them, as I do myself, because you know I'm a survivor as well, to be able to have a joyful life and to feel good living outside, out and about with other people. So please do share it. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up on the YouTube channel, subscribe, and after you've done that, go over to my website, labcaf.com, labcaf.com, and go ahead and get on my email list there too. I'll only send you something about once a week to let you know when there's a new article or new video coming out. And speaking of articles and videos, there's a lot of good articles on the website. Take a look and share them as well. It might be that one little bit of information that you shared with a friend that helped to save their day or maybe save their life. So share what you find out, share what I'm giving out there for free, and let's help as many people as possible, especially those people we love and care about so much. So until next time, as we keep moving from survivor to thriver, this is Cranford Blackman reminding you to stay safe and stay strong. See you next time.
To make sure you never miss an episode of Survivors to Thrivers podcast, subscribe at labcaf.com.
Sensory situation. Okay, we can be distracted. That's bad. Our two distractions. As you think it, when you get to the point, our two, so close.